All right. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the Margins Podcast, where we talking about books. The ones that leave a mark, start a conversation, and stay through long after the last page. Today, as usual, we got another good one for you. We're going to do The Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. Might be saying that last name wrong. Don't quote me, but you guys know it. You'll love it. This is a pretty popular book, and I know you guys heard me say we. And this week, I'd be remiss if I didn't start off by saying shout out to Stratton, my co-host for the Margins Podcast. He will be out this week. He's having some personal things, nothing crazy, nothing that he won't power through, him and the family, but I'll let him tell you more about that when he's back. And, our hearts and prayers go out to you and your family, and hopefully everything goes well. So with that being said, as I said earlier, this week we're going to be doing Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. And the reason why I chose this book, to be honest, it's the series I'm reading right now. We both have this running Excel list of probably well over 100 books for us to read and cover. And I was like, let me just choose one, that I gets pretty fresh on the brain. Let's make it easy on me, right? With that being said, if you guys are familiar with this series, The Empire of Silence is the first book in the series called The Sun Eater. Great name. As you guys, if you guys are into that kind of stuff, if you guys watch this show, I love space. And it has to do with space, love fantasy. So this cuts right through the middle of all of that. With that being said, let's just jump right into the author and book setup here, right? So as I said already, 3 times, it's written by Christopher Ruocchio. This book was published in 2018-ish. I want to say 2018. It's the first entry, which is at this point, it's a long-running epic science fiction series, the Sun Eater series. And Ruocchio is known for, this series really put him on the map, right, as an author in the fantasy science fiction realm. If you guys have read it, you know that it's I won't say super slow, but it's a slow build storytelling kind of thing where rather than it's super fast paced, spend a lot of time world building, character building, etc. So large scale, this happens over a galaxy, in terms of where and scale, I think galaxy sized. So we're talking in terms of travel. There's times where they spend years traveling. So that's gives you a little idea. It's definitely reflective. I guess the whole thing is kind of like a memoir style. So we start with the main character Hadrian Marlowe, and so basically you follow his story, him retelling his story, right? So it's him telling you about his story. It's kind of reminiscent of The Name of the Wind in a way, I would say it, but even more extreme in terms of in The Name of the Wind, you kind of catch up to that story. And for me, I'm 3 books in. I still have not caught up. It's definitely reflective and memoir style. The series gained a lot of traction via reader recommendation. There's a bit of hype on the story, but I think that the hype comes from the similarities. If I was going to give you a list of books that are similar to this book that you may have read or, I would want you to read, let's say Name of the Wind, let's say Dune. So somewhere in between The Name of the Wind and Dune, I would definitely give you, it's kind of cut between those two. Another good, well, I'm not going to say good because Reddit can get kind of crazy, but how I found this book was there was a huge debate on this book versus Red Rising. And now that I've gone through all of Red Rising a couple times, and except for the last book, and I'm going through this series, I actually don't see them one-to-one. I would probably prefer to, I do, I see why people are debating these two, because it happens in space and over the course of a lot of years and a lot of distance. And so I do see that in, the main character's motivations. I see that. But in terms of like pacing, in terms of character development, um, motivations, you can kind of guess one to one. But yeah, anyways, it's different, but it's similar. I would probably lean more to Name of the Wind and Dune, and somewhere in between that. And then if I had to give like a third one that's similar, I'll give you the Red Rising series. Okay, I hope that wasn't too long. Yeah, so if you guys have not read this before reading, just think about if you like those series or not. If you haven't read those series, go ahead and jump into them. They're all very good. This one as well. Yeah, so I didn't really have an idea of the kind of story I was expecting, to be honest. I just wanted to jump into it. They said it was kind of like Red Rising. I loved Red Rising, so I was like, let me see what this argument's really about, right? So yeah, there you go. So I guess to follow it up, I kind of covered this a little bit, but the Empire Silence is a slow burn, so don't expect to jump in and very quickly get a lot of answers. It's not that kind of book. It's really just about following the journey of Hadrian and the people who are part of his journey. You spend a lot of time on reflection. It's not constant action. There's a lot of tension, I guess, like a lot of choice making tension, and it does have combat. And when it does have combat, it's pretty good. To be honest, I think the combat is great. I think the story writing is great. The plot building's great. It definitely rewards you like your patience, right? Because like I said, it's a little bit of a slow burn, but it's rewarding in terms of like just be patient. Your favorite part is coming up. Let me see. Structure. The story structure is, like I said earlier, it's framed as a memoir. You follow Hadrian Marlowe, and you really start off. Man, how old was he? He was a young man. I'll say either. I don't want to get it wrong, so I won't put an exact age on him. But he was a young man when the story starts, and he is a diplomat. He's the son of a diplomat. Basically, he's a son of, I don't know if he's like an archon or something like this, but he's like a governor of a planet, and so he's born into a little bit of luxury, right? And what do you call it? Status. And one of the things that you will read if you go on the internet and try to look for, research the book, is a lot of people call him entitled. And I at first I was like trying to fight against it a little bit, but I get it. I get why people say that Hadrian's entitled and unappreciative of what he had, and then all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of negative, a lot of positive. That's what you get on the internet, right? But anyways, so you follow Hadrian. Everything happens from his point of view. Trust in the narrator is one of the things that like I wasn't sure if, because I'm always wary of like one point of view books, especially like strong points of POVs, because I'm like, are they intentionally leading us somewhere, and then there's gonna be like this twist built off of us following along very closely of this person's, and all of a sudden you find out this person was lying to themselves to another. I don't know, like those kind of twists. I'm not really into those that much, and I can't say it happened so far. Like I want to say that everything that he has foreshadowed is quite normal, and the only thing that was, I hope I'm not getting ahead of the books here, but the only thing that was a little bit different was that he's a linguist. That's part of his one of the things that he loved doing during his upbringing, is that I actually did that on purpose. But language is very subjective. They state that many times throughout the books, but language is very subjective. So like the language that you have is built off of your understanding of the world around you. So think environmental determinism kind of thing. So not everything translates perfectly. Not everything translates 100%, but more so your understanding of what that phrase is. Although there might be a mutual understanding that you have, the comprehension might be slightly different because of someone else's upbringing. So that's something to think about while you're reading this book, or just throughout the series in general. Okay, so I've been talking around a little bit, but let's get into the characters. Okay. So The main character is Hadrian Marlowe. He's the narrator and the key character throughout the book. A lot of people say, he's shaped by a lot of privilege. He's definitely shaped by the pressures, like familial pressure, societal pressure, and then like the pressure he puts on himself. Like he has his own self goals, fear, right? He's definitely afraid of becoming his father. Not that he doesn't think his father's a great person, because I definitely think he thinks that his father's a great person, but more so the negative parts of his father, he does not want to see that in himself, right? So the anger, the tendency to not, I don't know, I guess like think about other people. Like he thinks about other people, his dad, but he's he's in power. So for him, he likes to rule powerfully, right? Like he's more of like a rule by action and rule by what do you call it, iron rod kind of guy. And Hadrian's more like words, like he's okay with ruling, but he wants there to be some kind of discussion between him, between others, between even people who are, quote unquote, under him in status. Okay, other main characters. I can't get through all of them, guys. There's a lot of books and there's a lot of characters. So I'll go through some of my favorite ones, and if I miss some, comment, and I'll always follow back up, especially when we do like the other books. But Valka, she's a big character throughout the book. I think that Valka, what's cool about her is that she teaches him a lot, not just like literally, because she literally does teach him a lot about certain alien species that she's familiar with. That is into the book. I don't want to go too much into the plot, but basically, Hadrian ends up on a planet, meets her, want to skip a few years later, and she is already she's a doctor. That's the status that she introduced herself as. I believe he calls her like my lady or something, and she was like, I'm not a lady, I'm a doctor. Anyways, so she's really like a paleontologist or some shit, or I don't know, something like, well, she studies ancient cultures, and he loves learning about other cultures and languages, and so he gravitates to her, right? And it takes them a little while to grow into each other, but they eventually do, and she teaches him a lot, academically, but then also just like personally, like as a person. She definitely is a huge part of Hadrian's character growth. And that changes. I won't go too far into that, but their relationship in book 1 is not the same as book 2. It's not the same as book 3. It kind of develops differently. I stopped there because I have not gotten past book 3. Tor Gibson, the big homie. I like Tor Gibson. I thought he was a really cool character. He's actually Hadrian's father figure. Like, they don't say it. I don't think they ever say it, that he wanted him to be his dad, but you get that gist. Not that, Hadrian hates his dad and doesn't want to be his son or anything like that. It's really just that Tor Gibson, he's a big homie. He gave him a lot of game. He gave him a lot of, and when he thinks back on his life, like his inner monologue literally is from Gibson. Like, Gibson's his teacher, not just his language teacher, but his teacher in like how to be a better person. And yeah. So he's one of my favorite characters in the book. I won't go too crazy into that, but he's like his moral discipline. He teaches him like moral discipline. His brother Crispin is also a big, shaper of who he is. Crispin, he's bigger than him, like in size, although it's his little brother. But he's much more like their dad. I think that he says that a few times throughout that book, that Crispin is favorited. Like his family likes Crispin more, specifically his dad, because he's more like him. And so, although Hadrian definitely, I can't say definitely, he goes back and forth on like actually giving a fuck about his inheritance of like taking over after his dad. Although he says he doesn't want it, he definitely like makes it a point to reference that he hates that Crispin is gonna grow up and it looks like his dad's gonna give him the inheritance. So he's gonna be up next rather than the oldest son being next in line. He's gonna give it to to his little brother. That's kind of what it looks like. In terms of how he's treating them and stuff. So, and that does build a lot of resentment between Crispin and Hadrian. You know, in hindsight, and it's something that you guys can obviously comment on after you read the book, but you know, I actually think that Hadrian's the one that really pushes the negative between him and his brother. Although his brother is, you know, by all intents and purposes, not a great person, he is a product of his environment, which is a huge, I don't know, I won't say huge. That's an underlying theme in this book, though. You know, meeting people where they're at and where they're from and their makeup. And so Crispin, he is who he was groomed to be, right? And so his brother Hadrian definitely holds that against him. And I think that a lot of the ill feelings that he has really comes from himself. And that's another conversation. You know, someone else might think differently. Holla at me. Let me know. All right. There's other characters. William, or Twitch, who's a friend that he meets. Damn, I'm skipping books. No, that's in the first book. So there's a lot of different characters. I don't want to end up giving up the game, and you know, if you guys watch this, you guys know I spoil a lot of stuff. But I'm trying to give up the game and tell you guys what actually happens in later books. So with that being said, I think I'll move away from the characters before I give up too much. But there's other characters, main characters that are like not human, are Palatine, right? So Hadrian, he's part of the upper echelon of humans. They call that Palatine. And what Palatine is, it's just like basically in the future, like far into the future, we get good enough at like genome sequencing and stuff to where like not everyone, but all the upper echelon people are test tube babies. And they are, they're designer babies. They groom to be taller, like 7 feet tall, kind of tall, stronger, denser bone structure, smarter, more beautiful or handsome, whatever you want to call it. They're supposed to be the golds, if you want to reference Red Rising. They're the golds of the society. But yeah, so other than that, there's nobles and other. At this point, we've entered like the galactic milieu. Like we are a galactic civilization. So there's aliens, different kinds of aliens. A lot of references to like historical references back to like our Earth and our time, and before our time, and then but the story ultimately takes place like, I don't know, I can't put a number on it, but thousands and thousands and thousands of years into the future. All right. So I know that we usually do 5 hard questions, so I will try my best to do this without my partner here. Okay. Okay, here we are. 5 hard questions. Question number 1. Hadrian spends most of the book reacting to the family he was born into instead of building something new. Looking back, what is one belief or expectation you inherited that quietly shaped your decisions longer than you expected? There's a lot of truth to that statement and question. I do think that Hadrian spent like a lot of his time, I'm not gonna say feeling sorry for himself, but there was a lot of situations where he could have honestly accepted his role and played his role a bit better and got to a similar outcome. But anyway, with that being said, back to the question. For me personally, a belief or expectation I inherited that quietly shaped, man, poorness. I'll be super honest. I don't think that people understand what the lack of resources does to the mind. There's what movie is it? I don't know if it's Pursuit of Happiness. Maybe it's In Time with Justin Timberlake. But basically, I know it's fantasy, but they reference about how like people who like on a lower class, they tend to move quicker. Like they run, they're running places. They're in much of a rush. Everything's much of a rush. And if you have more resources, whatever that is, you tend to be a little bit more patient and easygoing. That's actually something that is referenced in throughout this series as well. Like the Palatines are really patient in their conversations, and obviously they have long lifespans that also helps that. But Yeah. Anyways, back to the question. For me, I definitely think it was like the lack of resources, and then as you get older, you have to find a way to break that because the habits that you have, been groomed into, may not be conducive to stacking cheese. So there's that, and things do get better, right? You gotta learn. Question 2: as the story moves forward, Hadrian chooses purpose over connection. He does that over and over. So think about a time that you committed fully to a goal. Did a relationship absorb that cost? So the first thing that came to mind, you guys heard me say this before, is going to London. I think that's probably the biggest thing I could think of because that affected all my relationships across the board. So family, etc. So yeah, definitely. That was all my relationships absorbed the cost of that choice. And then, there's a personal cost as well. So yeah, that was it. Going to London and studying and working. Question 3: most people say they want their own path, but still follow a version someone else approved first. When did you realize the life you were building was not fully yours? And what changed after that moment? So I think this question is really referencing like Hadrian's upbringing and the path that his family and just society thought he should take versus the path that he wanted. He wanted to be like a scholiast, which is like a scholar who travels and learns about the world around them, etc. And that his teacher, Gibson, was a scholiast, right? So he, for more than one reason, wanted to follow that path. And his family was like, hell no. So for me, it's going back to the question, when did I realize life for a bit of not really? That's tough. I think that's a little bit melodramatic. The question is, in actuality, I don't know. As I got older, I realized more of what I wanted, and I think for everyone, you start to realize how you can make it happen. Do you have the discipline for it? If yes, then you lay out a plan and you chase that. If no, then you recalibrate and look for something else that's a little bit more, on your cloud. So what changed after that moment? I don't know. A better understanding of self. Like, I think that, and that happens over and over and over. Like, I think that's probably why it was a little bit more difficult for me to answer this question straightforward, is that there isn't like a poignant moment in life that just kind of happens over and over, just like the book. All right. Question 4. Almost nothing in this book goes according to plan, even the moments that look like success. That's true. When was a plan in your life derailed in a way that ended up shaping you for the better? Guys, if you're listening to this, you're all familiar with this. You can make a plan, but ultimately you're going to be following God's plan. I think that's a phrase or something somewhere in there. But yeah, so ultimately you got to be able to roll with the punches. Have a plan A, have a plan B, have a plan C, and if all those fail, you got to be okay with picking up the pieces and trying again, even if it's a completely different pathway, no matter how old you are. One of my favorite movies actually references this, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I can't memorize the whole quote, but it's something like, you can start over anytime you want, but whatever, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'll post it here. Who knows? But anyways, yeah, so I plan in my life derailed in a way that ended up shaping me for the better. It happens all the time. I can't really give you a one-to-one moment. I just know that whenever that happens in life, I try to take it on the chin and turn it into a positive. If I can't take it on the chin and I'm complaining about it, I'm still going to try to turn it into a positive. Like, at the end of the day, you got to spin. You got to spin things. Be good at spinning. All right, question number 5. This book treats brief relationships as permanent influences. Who is someone from a short season of your life who reflects of your life, who still affects how you show up today? That's very true. I actually like this question a lot. And this book does, and I think that carries throughout the books as Hadrian gets older. especially for people who live such long lives as a Palatine. They can live hundreds and hundreds of years. There is an emphasis on the little people, or the people who, not even just the little people, but people who are in your life for a short amount of time, but you give them the grace to have a large influence. Kat, you read this book? Kat is one of those people. So for me, because I'm not Hadrian, yeah, there's a lot of people like that. I have mentors, I have friends, etc. Some people I won't ever talk to again. Some people I still talk to. And yeah, they're all a major part of who I am. Everyone who knows me knows that I always give up the ghost in terms of like, I will always give people their flowers, let them know what they mean to me and stuff. And I definitely know that I'm at where I'm at because of people around me. And that's family, friends, even just acquaintances. There's people that I've met and had like really brief conversations with. And they might have said something that changed the way I thought or spurred some kind of motivation in me, because I'm always looking for life in other people, living vicariously. You know what I mean? And that helps me just build my choice diagram, like my outline on how to live. So yeah, that was probably the fastest 5-part question we've ever done, doing it myself. So I'm going at a little bit quicker pace here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that. And yeah, once again, 5-part questions allow us to break down underlying things in a book and, you know, put them in a conversational tone for you and me. Feel free to comment, call in, tell me what you hate about it, like about it, the book or the questions, whatever. Yeah. So with that being said, I don't know if I did a full plot breakdown. I doubt it. I kind of spoke around the plot, mostly because I'm by myself today and I suck at not spoiling stuff. So small spoiler warning. I'm not going to go deep into spoilers, but I'm going to do a couple spoilers here, guys. Sorry, okay? So if you guys are looking to read this book and you have not read the book, and you don't care to hear a little tiny spoiler or 2 or 3, feel free to jump to the end, or, you know, turn it off, but just make sure you like, comment, subscribe before you do that. Check out other videos. Okay. So, I kind of already introduced some of the characters that I didn't want to introduce earlier because I said I would spoil it. But, like, for example, Kat. Hadrian met Kat. Okay, so let me start off with the plot. So, Hadrian, as you guys already know, he's a Palatine, so he's born to the upper echelon. And so, basically, the story starts with him finding out that his dad is going to give his title to his brother, most likely, and that there's a war happening. Himself, he doesn't really care about that. I already said this. Doesn't really care about, you know, taking and stepping into his dad's shoes. But he also doesn't like how hateful his dad and his brother Crispin are. So it kind of rubs him the wrong way. Ultimately, he tells his dad he wants to be a scholiast, like his teacher Gibson. His dad says, "Fuck off." And they basically said, "Well, actually, I've been training you to be I don't know, I guess some kind of judge or police. I don't know how to say it in like layman's terms, but man, what is it called? It's a group of people and they work with the government. It's actually a high position. Like if had he went this pathway, he would have been fine. It would have been good for the family, good for him. I don't know about him personally because he doesn't really like to persecute people. Is the Chantry? Yes, the Chantry. So basically, his dad wanted him to join the Chantry, which they don't accept people willy-nilly. It's very difficult to be a part of them. And they basically uphold the laws of the society. High society, low society, whatever. Everyone's afraid of them because they torture people and do all sorts of shit. And so he doesn't want to join the Chantry because he doesn't like fucking with people. And he just wants to go learn shit and be cool with everybody. So his dad's like, ha ha ha, I've been training you to be part of Chantry your whole life. Sucks for you, bro. He ends up selling him to the Chantry. He finds out. He comes up with a plan to get away. Gibson tries to help him. They get caught. Gibson gets fucked up and exiled. And then ultimately his mom, who's like not really so much into his dad or into anyone, to be honest. Um, but his mom is also from like a very royal line. He probably even more royal than his dad. So she's like chilling in her own space, and she wasn't really doing shit. And so him and his brother Crispin, before he gets sent off, they go to visit her. She says, "Hey, I've been watching you. I'm gonna help you out." So she helps him escape the Chantry. Will get shipped off to the Chantry, and they find like I don't know, a smuggler of sorts, and him and his team put him in cryo because they're going light years. I think the whole thing's supposed to take 11 years or something for him to get to where they were going, because he was trying to go to where the Scolius are. He even had Gibson write him a letter of introduction, and ultimately he never makes it there. He wakes up in a foreign place. I think it was called a mesh, and he wakes up in a mesh. It's first and foremost, he fell asleep in space. They put him into the cryo tube. He's supposed to wake up. He wasn't supposed to do the full 11 years. I think it was supposed to be like 7 years, and then to one place, and like another, 4 years to another place, to the place where the Scolius are at. But anyways, he wakes up. He doesn't know how much time has passed, and it's a lady who's taking him out the cryopod, telling him like, "Oh, you're lucky to have, survived. This happens all the time. People are always, saying that they are gonna take you somewhere, they take your money and just leave you." And he's like, "No, I don't believe that. I believe something had to happen. Like, there's no way that they just abandoned me because they knew I was gonna pay them when I got even more money when we got to the place." And ultimately, once you skip a few, he ends up living on a mesh as a I don't know how else to put it, but he's homeless for like 3-4 years. He gets his ass beat. He has to learn how to steal. He has to learn how to live, and it's life's a lot rougher on a mesh because number one, he grew up rich, and so for the very first time in his life, he has nothing. He has to learn how to get around. Luckily, he can still fight, and he's smart, obviously because of his upbringing, so that helps him. But like I think it's like 1.3 times Earth gravity on a mesh, so it's a lot heavier. The air is a lot heavier, a lot harder for him to get around at first, and so he had to really learn how to live. And one person that was pivotal in him getting around and understanding and living and surviving on a mesh is Kat. Okay, and Kat is like his first love. That's his first boo. She ends up being his first love, and although she's like a brief part of the story, she's a huge part of him, and he always thinks back to her in the time that they shared. But ultimately, Kat dies. There was like some kind of like black plague or something going on, and a lot of people were getting sick and dying. She ends up dying, and obviously he survives. He's poor. He doesn't know where to go after this, so he joins like the Coliseum, and that's where he meets Twitch and all the rest of his friends, Gin, Jin, etc. Basically, his motley crew. He meets them when he signs to be like a gladiator. Well, he's not a gladiator. He's actually signs to be the fodder. So he's signing up to be the people that fights the gladiators and fights the animals and all that other shit. But lucky for him, he has great home training, right? So not only does he survive, he teaches other people how to survive, and they built out a great life for themselves over the course of the next couple years. I want to say he became known as a great, not even gladiator once again, but he was I forgot the term they used, but he became someone who teaches people and trains people, and that's how he made his living, and that's how his goal was to keep doing that, make money, and buy a ship, and then go travel the world and do all the stuff that he always wanted to do. And he got his motley crew on the plan, and obviously that gets derailed too. I won't go into the thick of it, but it comes out that he's a royal, and the archon of that planet basically wants him to marry his daughter because he wants his family to be a part of like the closer to the royal line, and he has all the features and all the things that he wants his family to have. So he wants his daughter to marry Hadrian, and Hadrian's like, fuck no, I'm not a cow, I'm not a stud horse, I don't want to do this, I'm gonna be a part of this. But he's kind of powerless because he also can't make too much of a fuss because he don't want to. He's like, if my dad finds out, then the chantry finds out, and I'm fucked both ways, right? So he ends up being stuck, and he actually never does. At least in this book, I won't go deeper into other books, but he doesn't get with. I think that the most that happens is like a kiss with the daughter, and even that was like he didn't really want that to happen because he's still, he ends up becoming infatuated with Vodka, and basically, and Vodka's like a free spirit. She don't give a fuck. Like she literally she had like hoes. She had a hoe. She had one guy that was a hoe, and he was there for like the rich people to sleep with and shit like that. So, anyways, she don't really care. It's not really in her culture to marry or do anything like that. So, I think he was a bit more serious about that than her. Trying to wrap up the spoilers. Bum, 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 bum. So, yeah, he becomes closer with Valka because as he gets stuck on that fucking planet, he's like, well, if I'm stuck here, at least let me to work with her. I want to learn more about your ruins and all the other stuff. Want to skip a few. Aliens come, the war comes to Mesh, and they find out that, well, they basically capture some of the aliens. He can speak to them because he's a fucking linguist. He's the only person that can at that point, like on that planet. So it ends up being his job, and he had to be there for all the torturing and shit like that. He's not really with the torturing. He ends up siding with the aliens. A bunch of shit happens. If I go too further, I'm going to spoil even more. But yeah, guys, it's a great space fantasy book. If you're into like any kind of science fiction, space odyssey kind of stuff, there's a lot of combat. There's a lot of high society, low society. Fighting for what's right, or what the main character believes is right, and if that's even right. One thing that I do like that I guess still can be in the spoiler section is that this whole book happens from him retelling a story, and it's interesting because a lot of times when you're following their journey, you don't really know where they're going to be at. But he's very, like, the author and the main character, they very overtly tell you what's going to happen. They tell you that he's going to be the oldest person to ever live. They tell you that I don't want to go crazy. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of people die, and if I go any deeper than that, I'm going to spoil the shit for people who actually want to read it and not it be spoiled. If you want to know more, let me know. I'm always down to spoil some stuff. So hit me in the comments, etc. But yeah, guys, the Empire of Silence, which is, I guess I should say, the title of that book has to do with like the ancient ruins that were built by the Quiet, which are the people who came before all these other species, etc. Won't go too deep into that. Anyways, read it, guys. It's great. Do not shit on Red Rising series. If you like this book, if you like this series, I don't think that they have to be. They're different enough to where you don't have to make them clash. You know what I mean? If anything, this book is closer to like some in between Dune and The Name of the Wind. But whatever. Maybe I'm saying that because I love Red Rising, and I like this book. I like this series. It's a lot. It's definitely thicker in terms of, what do you call it? The breadth of what happens. A lot happens. Whereas in Red Rising, it's a lot more. Things happen a lot quicker. The story develops in wildly different ways. So yeah, I don't think that you guys have to choose either or. Enjoy both. The whole series so far is great. As I said earlier, I'm on book 3. We will revisit this series for sure. All right. With that being said, final takeaways. So one idea that I really like from the book, which I kind of discussed earlier, I really enjoy, two things. I'll do 2 things. One, I said this on a previous episode. I like the My Hero Academia style power scaling. And I give them the credit for it because they're just like the earliest narrative that I've seen that did this, where they start off with a character who's already like the end of the road. He's the all powerful villain or all powerful superhero, and now I'm going to take you on a story of how I became the greatest hero ever, kind of thing, right? Or the best villain ever, whatever case, whatever you like. But anyways, and I give them the credit for that because I don't remember seeing that too much or at all before My Hero Academia, and this book follows that other side. I like the emphasis they put on small moments. In real life, I genuinely do enjoy that, and I think that the writer, he's onto something there. I don't think that we pay enough attention to the small moments and how they grow and ripple out to be really impactful. All right, this book definitely rewards patience, guys. So it is a bit of a read if you like, longer books, or even if you don't like longer books, give it a try. It's definitely rewarding. It's not like, you won't find yourself reading and like, wow, this is a fucking drag. It's more so like, damn, there's a lot. Like a lot happens in the book. There's a lot of development of not just the characters, but the storyline, and then also the plot. And like, as I said, it's scaled over a galaxy, so it's a lot. If I can ask the author one question right now, that's tough because I'm only in book 3. But if I could, it'd be like, "What's up with Hadrian, man? What's up? What's up?" I get him, but I do think he should have been a little bit more, not just appreciative, but I feel like he underutilized his status throughout the book. Like, there's never a point in which he overtly used the tools that were given to him and built into him, other than, him being able to fight, right? And he had to lean on that. Those are things he had to lean on. But him, like, planning forward, it's almost like he was like, I was born to this, so I don't want to use any of it. So I would probably form a question around that. But, all right, guys, there's a lot. Hopefully I didn't go like at times 5 speed, but that is the end of the discussion for The Empire of Silence, book 1 of the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. Sorry if I fuck up your last name. Thanks for joining the Margins podcast, guys. This has been another episode. Shout out to my buddy, my guy, Strain. Hopefully everything goes well. And, you guys who are listening, don't worry. No one's dead or anything. He's just dealing, and he'll be back probably next week. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys